In April of 1997, I was invited to be the keynote speaker at a corporate convention in Anchorage, Alaska. And while there, I did some sightseeing. Late one afternoon, I made the 1.5-hour drive to the Matanuska Glacier because I was told it's one of the very few that you can walk right up to and climb on instead of just viewing it from a visitor center. It had been a sunny day in the 50s when I left Anchorage, but by the time I got to Matanuska, everything had changed. A cold front had blown in. The temperature had plunged once again way below freezing. It had started to snow and become overcast. I got there right at closing time, but the manager was a really nice guy and told me that I was welcome to go down and see the glacier anyway. This is the way it looks from the highway. He told me to drive down a muddy road. It's in the foreground here. Here's a better shot of the muddy road. And then to park in a gravel lot that is outside the frame of this photograph to your right. And then to hike across the frozen lake to the face of the glacier. Now, the two photos you've just seen were taken in the summer after the lake had melted. I just found those on the internet, but this is how it looked from the parking lot that day. Everything in the foreground is ice. You can see the deep blue glacier in the distance and the mountain beyond. I parked at the end of the road as instructed. Mine was the only car there. The place was deserted because it was so late in the day and the tourist season hadn't started yet. And I struck out confidently across the ice. I got about 50 feet out over that frozen lake and heard a crack. I looked down and little cracks in the ice were radiating out from beneath both feet. Instantly, my mind leapt back to my days in the Boy Scouts where they had taught me exactly what to do if ever I found myself on thin ice. What do? You spread your weight out, right? I dropped to all fours thinking that would do the trick. Now the ice was cracking beneath my knees and my hands. In a panic, I went belly down on the ice, and from that vantage point, I could see water sloshing no more than a half an inch beneath me. Now, in the Scouts, they had taught me that 1 inch of ice won't support a person. I'm looking at a half an inch or less. In terror, I began to slide backward inch by inch toward the safety of shore, and that's when I heard it. A thunderous roar. A huge crashing noise. I looked in the direction of the sound, and do you know what it was making all that racket? It was the manager. Didn't see that coming, did you? Yeah, he was on the ice just 40 or 50 feet away from me, driving past me on a bulldozer. It's one of life's most embarrassing moments. And he was a nice guy. He was staring straight ahead, pretending not to see me, making a complete fool of myself face down on the ice. You see, what I had no way of knowing that day was that the ice was actually a couple of feet thick. But several hours earlier in the noonday sun, the top inch of ice had melted. And by the time I got there, had started to refreeze again from the top down. So there was a half an inch of ice, a half an inch of water, and 2 feet of ice beneath that. Only the top sheet was cracking. I have a question for you. Who was safer, me or the manager? Me. Yeah, if somebody was going to go crashing through the ice that day, it was going to be the guy on the bulldozer, not little old me. But which one of us was happier? Which one of us was more at peace? Which one of us was making progress and going to reach his destination? I am convinced that most people spend their entire lives the way I spent that brief minute or two face down on a frozen lake in Alaska a decade and a half ago, and that is absolutely paralyzed in fear by little cracks in the ice that actually portend nothing. And when you and I hear and see the cracks in the ice, some of which you may hear this week at this conference, we are faced with a choice, and it is a choice that has cosmic implications for you and the only future you get. You can either choose to be the guy face down on the ice, in fear, sliding backward inch by inch into an unremarkable grave, or you can choose to be the guy on the bulldozer shouting, "Damn the torpedoes," and full speed ahead. And so, my friend, resolve to be the windshield, not the bug.